Take a look at this live feed of data on my screen and watch what happens next. See this blinking code? I'm simply going to copy it and paste it in my brokerage account. Now, pay close attention to my balance. See what happened? It just went from $0 to $11,033. Thanks to a 15-digit code just like the one I showed you, collecting thousands of dollars by every Friday has never been so easy. Simply copy and paste the code from the live feed I just showed you for the chance to cash out 7 days later with a big pocket full of cash. If you've never heard of this code before, I'm not surprised. This is only possible because the code you see is part of a special data feed coming straight from the New York Stock Exchange. For years, this kind of weekly cash has been off limits to the average investor, but recently everything's changed. Thanks to the release of a brand new tool, you too can piggyback off some of Wall Street's most lucrative trades before the rest of the world gets into them, giving you the chance to pocket payouts like $6,740, $11,033, and even as much as $22,440 by next week. And do it every Friday. I'm talking about earning some of the fastest money you've ever seen. In fact, I've used this secret to earn $30,000 in 15 minutes in front of hundreds of people in a live trading room. I'm going to show you everything right here, right now. And if you listen to this full message, at the end, you'll find a very special surprise. I think you're going to like this, but please keep this to yourself. This is the first release of my copy and paste system, or C&P for short. And although you can't access my personal computer, you will be able to access my research to copy and paste some of Wall Street's most lucrative trades. As I mentioned before, this data stream for this research is coming straight from the New York Stock Exchange. And even though this is 100% legal, the rules of my licensing agreement are very strict. If I were to break any one of them, the SEC could take my system away from me. So please, don't share these findings with anyone. To date, I've only shared this revolutionary strategy with a small group of 188 beta testers. That means only 188 people in the entire world have learned how to take advantage of this real-time data and walk away with the opportunity to pocket payouts like $6,740, $11,033, or even $22,440. Week in and week out, you'll be the 189th. This is an unbelievably powerful way of making money like nothing we've ever seen before. Without the stress of buying and holding, without the risk of tying up large amounts of cash, and without needing to pay Wall Street any commissions to access this live feed data. You just wait for the box to flash green, copy and paste the trade, and walk away with the chance for a pocket full of money this coming Friday and every Friday after that if you want. What could be easier? If you missed the boat on the internet extravaganza in the 90s, missed the real estate boom in the 2000s, and most recently missed the boat in the Bitcoin boom, pay careful attention to the next 2 minutes of this message because it could absolutely change your life starting next Friday. Just keep in mind, because I've only revealed my C&P method to this small group of beta testers, all the trade examples I'll mention today are drawn from historical data. So what exactly is the C&P method? And how can you use it to take home big weekly payouts? Let me show you with an example. Take a look at how people reacted to the news surrounding Immersion Corp, ticker symbol IMMR, in late January. After a year of declining cash and a 25% drop in sales, IMMR was a pretty sick puppy. Analysts were using words like disappointing, and the news reported that 5 different insiders had recently dumped the stock. Investors reacted to the news immediately, shedding shares as fast as they could. What they didn't know was the bad news was old news, and everything was about to change. On January 23rd, this code for IMMR appeared on my data feed. For reasons that will become clear soon, that signaled big money news was just around the horizon. Sure enough, investors were in for a shocking surprise. Just 3 days later, the media confirmed it. Apple reaches settlement, licensing agreement with Immersion. Shares of IMMR jumped 49%. That, my friend, is big money news. Unexpected news that triggers a huge spike in the stock. Normally, it's impossible for everyday folks to catch these moves, but had you copied and pasted this trade, you could have turned every $1,000 invested into $11,033. Can you imagine that? Making one trade and walking away with $11,000? That's equivalent to 8 months of Social Security payments. It's mind-blowing. Because for 99% of the American public, making money like this is a pipe dream. Sadly, they base all their investment decisions on data that's just too slow, on old news. That's like driving a car but only looking in the rearview mirror. You will never make big money if you're just reacting to the news. I'm sure you've noticed that, right? That's what makes the CMP method so special. With this data coming directly from the New York Stock Exchange, you now have the chance to get ahead of big money news, giving you the chance to collect 1,033% gains 3 full days before the rest of the world jumped in. Isn't that insane? I've never seen anything like it in my life. Get in on Tuesday and cash out with a total of $11,033 a few days later. Incredible! And because getting started is as simple as copying and pasting, you can do this even if you've never traded a stock or used a broker in your life. You just wait for my data feed to flash green, copy and paste the trade, and get out a few days later with a huge payout. Even better, these types of trades happen every single week, giving you the chance to take home a pocket full of cash every week. This is only possible because the CMP method uses a strategy that must pay out any outstanding profits by Friday. That's why I'm sending you this message today. With a new opportunity just around the corner, you could have a chance to walk away with payouts like $6,740, $11,033, or even as much as $22,440. How is this fair? Having a way to get ahead of big money news definitely gives you an unfair advantage. But it's 100% legal and straight from the NYSE. Take the example of Intel, ticker symbol INTC, for instance. In January, all hell was breaking loose for the world's most popular software manufacturer. A critical flaw in their computer chips allowed hackers front-row access to customers' private information. Based on that news, investors dumped INTC left and right, sending the stock price on an immediate 10% downward spiral. It was a nightmare for anyone caught holding shares. And what they didn't know is that was all old news. Because while blood was flowing in the streets, my computer showed me something totally unique. On January 25th, my data feed flashed green on shares of Intel, alerting me big money news was on the way. Sure enough, hours later, the press released the story. Intel crushes earning reports. Intel surged to a 7-year high. For 99% of the world, it was a total surprise. But had you copied and pasted this trade, you could have taken home $6,595 in 5 days for every $1,000 invested, while most investors missed out. That comes to $1,319 per day, enough cash to fast-track retirement for even the worst-case scenario. Are you starting to see why this data feed is so revolutionary? You simply wait for the code to flash green, copy and paste the trade, and walk away a few days later with a pocket full of cash. Take the case of Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, ticker symbol DPS. For the past 2 years, profits have gotten ugly. Thanks to consumers watching their waistlines, soda makers everywhere have been struggling. The New York Times calls it the decline of big soda, citing the drop in soda consumption represents the single largest change in the American diet in the last decade. Thanks to all the abysmal news, DPS's stock chart looked like a flatlining EKG. But that was the old story, because on January 26th, my data feed flashed green on shares of Dr. Pepper, signaling a brand new story was on the horizon. 3 days later, the profits rolled in like clockwork. At 7:30 a.m. on the 29th, Keurig broke big money news with this press release. Dr. Pepper, Snapple, and Keurig Green Mountain to merge. Shares of DPS soared 30% before the market even opened, creating massive profits for a few savvy investors. Most investors missed that move because they were following the old news. They were driving looking in the rearview mirror. But had you copied and pasted this trade, you would have turned every $1,000 invested into $13,942 in just 3 days, without risking your savings by buying and holding, without tying up your cash in long-term plays, and without having to invest huge sums of money. You just copy and paste the trade I send you from my data feed, sit back, and collect your profits. What could be easier? I spent 10 years grinding as a floor trader on the Chicago Board Options Exchange, where I learned the ins and outs of making big money on fast trades. While I enjoy being on TV, I don't necessarily recommend following its advice. You see, I personally turned $50,000 into $5 million, as you can see from my brokerage account. And it wasn't by watching Fox News or CNBC, or sitting at my computer waiting for Yahoo Finance to update stock prices. It was by trading on big money news. Unexpected pieces of news that only insiders could possibly know about, and news that triggers a spike on the stock. Now, of course, I'm not talking about non-public information. Technically, anyone willing to pony up the money could get access to this data. But news this big in the hands of someone who doesn't understand what it means would do no good for anyone. I'm sure you've noticed, the news you see in the Wall Street Journal, on CNBC, and in Bloomberg, it's worthless if you're trying to make big money because by the time it comes out, it's already too late. To make real money, you need to get ahead of big money news. And that's exactly what my CMP method can do for you. I've never seen an easier or more fun way to get rich than copying and pasting Wall Street's best trades for massive profits. Because, let's face it, in this fast-paced tech society, if you're not the first to a trade, there's a good chance you'll be dead last. Maybe you've even lost money by following the news. If you have, don't worry, it's not your fault. Everyday folks like you are just reacting to the news you get. And while news from Google, Yahoo Finance, and other internet sites may seem like breaking news, the truth is, by the time the news hits you, insiders and big institutions have already profited from it. And they're just popping the champagne and laughing behind your back. How on earth are you supposed to profit when the game is rigged like that? When it comes to information, everyday folks like you are way behind the curve. Why do you think Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, Blackstone Group, and a handful of big players pay the NYSE huge licensing fees to get their servers as close to the exchange as possible? They do that to make sure they get market data before you. In fact, experts estimate since 2010, over $2 billion has been spent to get access to high-speed data. And that's why the secret behind my CMP strategy is licensed straight from the New York Stock Exchange, the epicenter of the fastest-moving financial information on the planet. Because big players know the better your data, the more money you can make. Take what happened with Virtu, for example. For 4 years, the secretive high-frequency trading firm managed to have only one losing day. In its worst period, the firm was making between $800,000 and $1 million a day. And for 365 days, it even had a perfect record. That's mind-blowing. It used to be if a trader won 50% of the time, they were ahead of the game. But thanks to high-speed information, these stories are more common than not. In fact, for 1 year, JPMorgan didn't have a single losing day, and Bank of America had a perfect first quarter. The point is, money loves speed. And unless you can get ahead of big money news, you'll always miss out on big moves that happen every week. Fortunately, using my CMP system, you can copy and paste Wall Street's biggest trades and start taking home the cash you deserve. I'm going to show you everything right here, right now, because once you have access to the research from this tool, taking home huge weekly payouts could be easier than ever. Take, for example, what happened with ILG Inc., a popular vacation services company. When rumors hit that interest rates were about to rise, investors panicked. Look how the news affected ILG. But the truth was, while investors were reacting to that old news, insiders were already placing bets on big money news, surprising news that was about to come out. And it was all registered in that live data feed, when a code for ILG appeared flashing on the screen. Sure enough, not more than 24 hours later, the news picked up on a brand new story. ILG reports top revenue in 4th Q earnings. ILG took off on a huge 7-day spike. Had you copy and pasted the trade straight from my computer, you could have walked away with $3,640. Incredible, right? Here's another example of big money news. Take a look at what was happening in January with Capstone Paper and Packaging Corp. For the past year, it had been one piece of bad news after another. Capstone disappoints. Why shares of Capstone Paper and Packaging Corp. and West Rock Co. slumped today? Shares of Capstone Paper and Packaging Corp. plunge 24% after weak quarter. Of course, by the time investors read this news, it was already outdated. Because my data feed flashed green on shares of Capstone, showing big money news was just around the corner. Of course, it occurred to me to write this one off. Capstone's news had been so bad, I thought my system was getting a false positive. But I was wrong, because 7 days later, this headline hit the news. Shares of Capstone fly 30% higher after acquisition announcement. Of course, 99.9% of people bought in when it was already too late, because the moment the public found out about the buyout, shares went ballistic. By the time the average investor bought in, they had already missed out on all the gains. But had you copy and pasted that trade, you would have been positioned to profit instantly when the big money news hit. And you could have taken home a huge wad of money. I'm talking about turning a $1,000 investment into an $18,000 payday. If you wanted to invest a little more and started with $5,000, you'd have walked away with $90,000. That's 34 times more money using my strategy than buying stock alone. All from a move that nobody but insiders could have seen coming first. Yet my system knew exactly what was happening. How incredible is that? You just copy and paste this trade and get out with a huge paycheck. There's no buying and hoping, no needlessly exposing your money to the markets long term. You just get in, get out, and get paid. Another example. On January 17th, the data feed flashed green on a company called Herbalife. And 7 days later, shares exploded. If you had copied and pasted this trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $10,000 in just 1 week. If you could match that every week, that's $40,000 a month and $440,000 a year. Week after week, the money really adds up. Instead of sitting around and always being late to the party, now you finally have a chance. When my data feed flashes green, simply copy and paste this trade and get out a few days later. Of course, nothing in the world works 100% of the time, no matter how good the track record. And as with any investing, we'd never recommend you invest more than you're willing to lose. But you can see for yourself just how consistent my CMP method is. Week after week, the profit opportunities keep rolling in. Now, events like these might seem rare, but most people don't realize these spikes are as common as daylight. In fact, each week more than 100 stocks double thanks to big money news. In a recent month, for example, 157 companies went up an average of 369% in 7 days or less, like Central Florida State Bank, 900%, New Frontier Energy Group, 380%, Golden Mile Resources, 271%, Blockchain Industries, 525%, Global Healthcare and Education, 452%, Social Media Ventures, 9,900%. If you miss those moves, don't beat yourself up. Most people miss these moves because, well, most people get the news after all the big moves have happened, long after they needed to get in. They're following old news instead of getting ahead of big money news. The CMP method is the only way I know of catching these fast-moving spikes for easy returns, by tipping you off to big money news. I'm talking about future events insiders bet will turn stocks into geysers of flowing cash. Like mergers and buyouts, surprise earnings reports, key deals, and management shakeups, and you can get a piece of each and every one. Simply wait for the code to flash green on my live data feed, copy and paste the trade, and walk away a few days later with a pocket full of cash. Take Google, for instance. On January 16th, my data feed flashed green on shares of Google. 7 days later, shares of Google took off like a rocket. If you had copied and pasted this trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $7,680 in just 1 week. If you could match that trade every week, that'd be $30,720 a month and $368,640 a year. According to United States income statistics, that's more than 99.3% of earners in America. If you had half that money coming in each year, you'd be set for life. The moral of the story is, with information this good, you'll feel like you're on the inside, getting tipped off to a major move by the CEO himself. But everything is 100% legal. The point is, when you can get ahead of this big money news, you can make a fortune. Take, for example, the story about a trader I saw circling online. Although no deal had been officially announced, he noticed a report mentioning Intel was in talks to buy Altria. He placed a trade 1 second later based on that single rumor. What happens next is the kind of thing we all dream about. 28 minutes after he heard the rumor and placed his trade, Altria stock went wild, handing the trader 2,329%, turning every $1,000 invested into $24,290. That's like getting paid $50,000 an hour. I know money like that seems completely out of reach. That's what Wall Street wants you to believe. But nothing can be further from the truth. All you have to do is track Wall Street trades that appear in that live feed and piggyback them for a huge fortune. You don't have to be a trader. You don't have to have a friend on the inside. You don't even need to have a lot of money. With just $1,000 to start, you just wait for the box to flash green, copy and paste the trade, and collect a payout like $11,019 each and every week. What would that kind of money mean to you and your family? With that kind of income, there's no question things could be different. When you have money, you don't sweat the little stuff. There's no late payments, no choosing between a vacation or a new car, no stressing to pay medical bills. A lot of the things that used to bother you just disappear. You have the time and freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And while everyone knows money can't buy happiness, it sure can solve a lot of the problems not having money causes. And more than that, having the wealth to not only solve your own problems, but help a few other people take care of theirs just feels really, really good. Imagine donating $5,000 to your church or favorite charity next week, just because you made more than enough for you and your loved ones. That's the power of this CMP method. And here's what most people didn't realize. That kind of money can come quicker than you ever dreamed of. A few weeks ago, for instance, my data feed flashed green for Mattel. 4 days later, Mattel's stock price rocketed up. You could have copy and pasted this trade for a $7,260 payout. That's the equivalent of $29,040 extra in your bank account in a month and $348,480 a year. Just picture it. By getting ahead of big money news, you can get in, get out, and get paid. Week after week after week. There's no long-term commitments, no wondering where to put your money in case the market tanks, no watching helplessly as your money plummets up and down in the crypto markets. Just simple cash payouts in 7 days or less. What could be more fun? My data feed simply tracks Wall Street's most secretive trades, and I show you how to profit from them. Look, this is your best chance to make money in this rigged game. Wall Street pays gargantuan sums to get information faster than you can, and there's nothing you can do about it. According to one estimate, a connection that's just 1 millisecond faster than the competition's could boost a firm's earnings by as much as $100 million per year. That's why big firms are happy to hand over $300,000 a month, in some cases for access to fast information. As one insider told Wired magazine, there's so much money to be made that any expenditure on research and infrastructure to shave those microseconds is worth it. And there's no way you can compete with that, or even try. One way or another, the whales in the market like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs get access to information faster than we do. According to a study quoted in Reuters, hedge funds and other rapid-fire investors get access to market-moving documents before other users, giving them a possible edge on the rest of the market. The good news is, tons of lucrative information leaks, and if you have a system to track it, you can make a fortune. You've seen the movies, private government meetings, well-connected insiders, secretly trading information on stocks that are about to surge, and things aren't much different in real life. As The Economist reported, and 3 different studies conclude, insider trading has been rife on Wall Street. And as Bloomberg confirmed, as many as 50% of deals they surveyed involved suspicious trading. In total, we found 102 unique cases involving insider trading ahead of M&As. The point is, urgent information leaks. And instead of getting frustrated about it, there's a simple, legal way to take home a lot of money from it. Because a lot of that information ends up showing in that live feed I've been showing you. Before I show you exactly the mechanism behind this data feed, I should probably explain how I uncovered this secret. It was 2006, and I couldn't believe what was happening to me. I had just lost $80,000 in 6 months trying to leave the CBOE to trade from my computer full time. I had almost blown up my whole trading account. All of the old indicators, like Bollinger Bands and momentum, I relied on as a moneymaker weren't working. Like 99.9% of all the indicators out there, they're too late. They only move after the stock moves. I'm sure you've noticed that too, right? I was frustrated and worried. I needed something new and I needed it fast. Little did I know I was in for a huge surprise. I was just days away from discovering the single most important system of my trading career, what I call the CMP method. At first, I was skeptical. I'd heard rumors of traders tracking Wall Street's most secretive trades for millions of dollars in profits, but I'd never seen it work for myself. After seeing the back-tested results and personal profits of traders, I knew I had to see if this could work for me too. I immediately contacted a representative to license my own data feed from the NYSE, hired a programmer to build my system, and began trading. That's when everything changed. At one point, I was making $200,000 a month, and even did a trade live in front of hundreds of viewers that earned me $30,000 in 15 minutes. The rush I felt from making money again was amazing. I thought, if this was working for me, what could it do for other people? That's when I began sharing it with a handful of everyday. Or David Fardell, who wrote, "I just knocked out a triple. Me being brand new, I've been using the CMP system for about a week, and for me to knock out a triple in that short amount of time, it's just an incredible opportunity and experience. But nothing compares to Thomas James's result out of West Palm Beach. He told me, I'm up $1.2 million this year thanks to your CMP method. I already bought an Aston Martin and a boat this year." Keep in mind, they didn't do anything special to get these gains. They weren't money makers trained directly by the CBOE like me. They simply waited for the trade to flash green, copy and pasted it, and cashed out their profits. It really is that easy and profitable. Sometimes you can cash out in as little as one day. Take the example of Alibaba Group. Since February, when the Chinese e-commerce giant released disappointing margins, investors started reacting to the news by pulling money out, leading to its worst performance of the last 18 months. But selling was a mistake because Alibaba stock was about to spike. As the Wall Street Journal reported on March 15th, technology giant Alibaba Group Holding Limited is working on a plan to list on a stock exchange in its home market, China. According to people familiar with the matter, more than 3 years after its blockbuster initial public offering in New York. Shares jumped instantly for a 6% gain in less than 24 hours. But you didn't want to buy the stock. Instead, if you had followed my strategy, you could have pocketed $11,019 for every $1,000 invested. Of course, most people missed it, because by the time the news hit, it was too late for the little guy to catch the lion's share of the gains. But my data feed knew what was happening. It could have helped you walk away with an exceptional $11,000 in just one day. How nice would that be? This is the only legal strategy we know of that lets the little guy get ahead of big money news. When you have access to information before the rest of the world gets it, it's a whole new ball game. Imagine if you were standing in a crowded plaza when it began to rain gold coins. The person standing closest to where the gold coins fall has the best chance of getting most of them, and the person farthest away is most likely to get none. And it's the same way in the stock market. If you get the right data, you can profit week in and week out. That's why Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and other big players have dropped $2 billion into high-tech infrastructure to get data from the markets faster than anyone else. But you can do exactly what they're doing without accessing their team of researchers, without accessing their data servers, and without needing to know anything about finance at all. All you need to do is track orders from institutional investors, and that's exactly what my CMP system does. You see, when big institutions like hedge funds and pension funds know about a big move that's about to take place, they'll place a bet on this event using options. Basically, it's a way for them to turn a small move in stock price into a big win in just a few days. Of course, they never reveal the trades they're making, but they do leave behind a clue. And if you can spot it, you can make a fortune. I'll show you. This is as close to legal front-running as it gets. Of course, we aren't actually front-running. If you wait 90 days, the SEC releases the same data to the general public for free. Unfortunately, by then, the opportunity to profit is long gone. Because speed of information is the key to my whole system. Let me show you. See the data feed here? The one I've been showing you today? These are institutional orders, data that's coming straight from the New York Stock Exchange, and this is where you find all the clues you need. Because the moment big institutional investors place a massive bet to get ahead of big money news, it shows up on this data feed. Now, as you can see, there is a ton of orders coming in, so you might be asking, how do you know which one is the trade? The one that can tip you off to big money news? The truth is, I'm a math guy. And while this is really exciting to me, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes numbers you probably don't want to know about. So let me explain it this way. A lot of these institutional orders are what Wall Street calls hedging bets. These are bets designed to protect their other investments and not necessarily bet on any market outcome. For example, a pension fund might buy options on Microsoft just to protect their investment on shares of Microsoft. They are simply meant as insurance to protect them from losing a lot of money if they make a mistake. Here's the thing. these hedging bets will never tip you off to any big money news. So the key to my strategy is knowing how to filter the right type of trade. That's where I come in. I hired a programmer to filter only the institutional trades that could tip you off to big money news. The way it works is genius. See, most of those hedging bets are not usual at all. They tend to have a pretty consistent volume, but oftentimes something strange happens. The volume gets out of whack, and it jumps 2, 3, sometimes even 10 times higher than usual. That's when you know something fishy might be going on, and that someone is making a bet that there's big money news just around the corner. So only the trades that show these unusual volume spikes cause my system to flash green. For example, when Alibaba flashed green on my screen, the options volume was 4 times higher than normal. Within 24 hours, it spiked 14 times higher than normal. Now, that's a signal you want to act on. And had you simply copied and pasted that trade, you could have walked away with $11,019. That's why my C&P system is so revolutionary and so lucrative. It filters data directly from the New York Stock Exchange so you instantly know what big players are doing. Let me show you an example to demonstrate how it works. As you can see from this screen, in just a few seconds, hundreds of trades flow through this feed. But what you don't see is behind each trade is a special algorithm to sort through every one. This algorithm flashes green the moment it finds institutional trades betting on big money news. And when you consider there are more than 4,500 different stocks with options on them, we are looking at millions of different trades and data points to track every single day. And my system filters through every single one. You just wait for me to tell you my feed flashed green, copy and paste the trade recommendation, and collect your profits. It really is that simple. Take what happened to Dick's Sporting Goods on March 13th, for example. The news reported Dick's was slumping on weak holiday sales, but really, that was the outdated story circling around the media. Because my data feed was flashing green, signaling big money news was in the works. Sure enough, 3 days later, the secret came out. Dick's beat earnings estimates. Shares jumped immediately. Outside of working directly with Dick's, there's no way you could have known what was coming. But my system did. It would have alerted you to this fast-moving trade before everyone else heard about it. And if you had copied and pasted this trade, you'd have earned a quick 156% gain in just 3 days. That's $2,560 for every $1,000 invested. Do that twice a week, and you're looking at $5,120, week in and week out. If you could match that every week of the year, you'd be looking at a nice annual salary of $266,240. When my data feed flashes green, simply copy and paste this trade and cash out a few days later. Of course, nothing works 100% of the time, and there's always risk with any investment. But this is the only way I've ever seen to profit from the big money news that causes these spikes. With the volatility going wild in the stock market, this could help a lot of people. And now is the perfect time to act because my data feed just flashed green, signaling big money news is coming. Copy and paste this trade before you see it on CNBC. As you can see, my data feed just flashed green, meaning my data feed just caught a huge move by insiders. Something big is about to happen in as little as 24 hours. To help you take action, I've created an email with the exact code you need to copy and paste to get into this trade recommendation. As I mentioned before, my system only works by harnessing the same data Wall Street pays as much as $300,000 a month to get before everyone else. That's why it's important you do not share these trade recommendations with anyone. Because as I mentioned previously, I signed an agreement that prevents me from sharing this with everyone. If I break that agreement, I could lose my system. So while I can't legally let you see my computer screen in real time, and I cannot let you access my data without strict penalties, each time my data feed flashes green, I can send you the exact trade to copy and paste. You should know up front, this strategy is not right for everyone. If you're afraid of trying something new, can't follow simple instructions, and you're not really serious about growing your wealth as fast as you can, this is not right for you. I suggest instead you look into a dividend fund that pays 3 to 4% a year if you want to avoid risk for a meager return. But if you do have an open mind and are looking for the opportunity to collect huge payouts every week, I'll instantly send you this email and a special series of 7 videos showing you how my C&P system works. By now, you're probably wondering, why am I sharing this with you when it would be much more profitable for me to start a hedge fund? To be honest, I have considered it. Working at the CBOE, I became connected to the best traders in the world. and many of them became my friends. When I turned $50,000 into $5 million, these friends approached me to start a hedge fund. Yes, that might sound like an amazing opportunity on the outside, but here's what I didn't like about it. If I ran that hedge fund, clients would have to pay as much as $110,000 or more every year to access my trades. Because to start that hedge fund, only accredited investors, people with more than $1 million, can apply. And if they are accepted, fees run 2% on their assets and 20% on their returns. That means if you invested $500,000 and you double your money, the fees alone would be $110,000. Sure, that's a lot of money, but I already have a lot of money. The truth is, for me, there's no joy in being chained to a desk, making a few rich people richer. Like most hardworking Americans, I wasn't born rich. If it wasn't for intense sacrifice and a few good people willing to show me the ropes, I wouldn't be where I am today. First, I understand you might still have some questions about our strategy, so I've taken the liberty of answering some of the most common ones I've heard. Question number 1. Can I really get paid every week? Answer: absolutely. As I mentioned before, past performance doesn't guarantee future success. But because my strategy doesn't have anything to do with buying and selling stock, you have the chance to get paid every week. How does it work? We harness a relatively new financial instrument called Friday contracts. Released in 2010, Friday contracts create short 7-day windows to potentially collect cash. When the window expires on Fridays, by law, these contracts must pay out. That means if you invest in a contract that expires each Friday, you can get paid each week. You just wait for my data feed to flash green, copy and paste the trade recommendation, and collect your payout soon after. No buying and hoping. No praying that the stock market stays positive just a little bit longer so you can reap what you sowed. Just quick cash that pays out consistently. Question number 2. If I'm so confident a stock price is going to move higher, wouldn't it just be better to buy the stock outright? Answer: you could, but if you bought the stock instead, it could actually rob you of profits. That's because unlike stocks, these little-known Friday contracts cost just pennies on the dollar. That means you can get started with as little as $100 sometimes, and the gains can be astronomical. I have never seen an easier or more powerful way to boost your income. Take the example of Pfizer. On January 23rd, my data feed flashed green. Had you bought Pfizer stock, you would have earned a quick 6% in 7 days. But had you used Friday contracts, you could have earned 1,757%. That's 292 times more than just buying the stock. Incredible, isn't it? That's why you're able to take home big payouts in 7 days or less. When you combine the prediction capabilities of my system and the reliability of Friday contracts, I promise you there's nothing on the market like it. And you can get started just a few minutes from now. Question number 3. How much money can I make? Answer: when you copy and paste these trade recommendations, the gains can be astronomical. On average, our backtesting showed the potential to have taken home $11,940 every 5 days. But with extraordinary events, the gains could be even greater. Let me give you an example of one of these events that happened recently. On January 22nd, my system flashed green on an institutional order involving shares of Netflix. That meant a huge move was about to happen in Netflix. 4 days later, the prediction had come true. Netflix smashed its previous subscriber estimates by 2 million customers. As U.S. News reported, Netflix stock is just getting started. Netflix investors should get used to record subscriber growth. Unfortunately, unless you had access to my computer, this news would have taken you completely by surprise. There's no way you could have predicted what was happening. Had you copied and pasted my trade recommendation, however, you could have turned every $1,000 invested into $22,440. Even better, had you taken just $5,000 from some of your worst performing investments and put it into this trade, you could have taken home $113,200 in just 4 days. Imagine getting that opportunity once a week. You'd be sitting on close to $500,000 a month. Can you imagine if that happened to you? It's a brand new service. I want to do something special for my new charter members. That's why I've arranged the Pebble Beach golf experience of a lifetime. You see, the CMP system completely changed my life. When I graduated from college, I was living with my parents. taking the train every morning at 5:40 a.m. to the CBOE for a 12-hour day. At the time, I could never have imagined how things would have turned out. Today, when I'm not trading from my home or traveling for speaking engagements, I take time off to enjoy the finer side of life, and luxuries I could never have afforded before. So along with helping you make money, I'd like to see firsthand how these weekly payouts can change your life. That's why I'll be giving away a golf trip to Pebble Beach for you and 3 of your friends. I'm talking about a weekend of golf with all of your tee times, your meals, your hotel, and your flights paid for. Is that something you're interested in? Good, because there is no purchase necessary to enter to win. Just review the terms and conditions at the bottom of your screen. I think it will be one of those trips you and your friends talk about for the rest of your life. My system only works by harnessing the same data Wall Street pays as much as $300,000 a month to get before everyone else offer you. But I'm going to go one step further and give you my wacky profit promise. Get the chance to turn $1,000 into $55,095 over the next year, or I'll pay your membership myself. Our historical analysis shows that you could have turned a small investment of $1,000 into more than $11,940 in 7 days or less. I'm so confident in my CMP system, I wanted to make you a promise you would remember. If you don't see the chance to make $11,940 at least 5 separate times in the next year for my recommendations, we'll give you 12 more months of membership completely free. Since you've watched this far, I think you're the kind of person I'm looking for.